Good morning. This is the third video for week 2. This is about futures wheels. We've already done an introductory video, and we have done a video about the information gathering strategies so that you can think about how you would probably want to answer the discussion questions, as well as, I think, the first assignment, if I remember correctly. This third video is more specific to futuring 2, as in Roman numeral 2, which is about what I call if-then strategies. You'll see more about this in chapters 5 and 6. And again, it's really to your advantage to have read the book, chapters 1 through about 5 at this point, 5 to 6 actually, so that you'll have be able to see how these things are intended to be connected with each other. But phase 2, futuring 2, is what I call if-then thinking. If-then thinking is what we do every day, all day, 24/7. It's how we live. If we do this, then we expect this to happen. If this doesn't happen, then we think this will happen. I'm mindful, for example, of the conflagration that may be at our doorstep, perhaps by the time this video goes up, of the horrible things that seem to be poised to happen in the Mideast. And again, without making any political judgment on decisions that led to that, it's extremely complex, and that is not if-then thinking altogether. That's much more deep thinking called three-dimensional thinking we'll come to in the third week. However, you can see how if-then certainly is a part of the process here. So as you go from information gathering and getting our arms around all of the information we think we need, and then recognizing pretty quickly that we don't have all the information we need to make a futures-based decision, then we go to if-then thinking. As you remember, the decision-making model that I showed you in week 1 speaks clearly to our necessity to consider the two-dimensional, the surface things that we think will probably happen. There's a lot of literature out there. One book I will mention, I think it's in the bibliography, it's called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Kahneman. Book I recommend highly for you to read. It's not an easy book to finish. You'll find that basically people don't like to think so deeply so often. It makes their hair hurt. And that's why we pay people in think tanks to tell us what we need to think often, because we either don't have the information that we need, or the patience to think things through, or the skill sets, which is what it is I'm trying to give you in order for you to become skilled futures-based change leaders, that we have to require of folks so that a group can meet its deepest purpose. So that's what this is so much about. And just to recap, as we've gone through information gathering, we've got a good handle on that. And now we need to jump into 2 strategies. There are many. I think the second book in the required books, which I'm really not requiring, is a good book for additional strategies for that. Again, given the brevity of the course, we haven't the time to examine all of those different strategies to use. And so what we're using here are 2. And those are the ones, quite frankly, I use in most consulting situations that I'm part of. And in this case, we're talking about futures wheels. Now, futures wheels is deceptive. Futures wheels looks like some kind of brainstorming template, and it's not. That's the first thing I want to say. However, futures wheel is a good graphic organized to get you, and hopefully folks with whom you work, to contribute to some nice scrape the crust off the surface if-then thinking. And so what I'm going to do is to show you what it looks like, that the template is there. And I want to also mention that the template I gave you probably isn't all that satisfactory. You may want to take the liberty when you send me your assignment to perhaps try your hand at something a little simpler or a little bigger to work with. So at any rate, I'm in the wrong place. Give me a second. By the way, I just wanted to point out this is a great website, mindtools.com, a wonderful website. I only gave it to you for futures wheels. I'm not going to open that link. You can look at it yourself when you look at this PowerPoint more specifically. But uh, that particular website has lots of approaches to think in general, and particularly in terms of leadership styles and theory. This course is not a leadership theory course, but I probably taught leadership theory about 1,000,000 times, and I'll probably drag some of those things into it up the road. Essentially, this is a chart of possible, probable, and preferable ripple effects. A fancier word for it is potential primary, secondary, and tertiary, and so forth, consequences of a given future. It's based on your reasoning. It's based on the thinking that you have begun to evolve in the futuring one phase, the information gathering phase. And if you recall, the slogan that connected to that is, what you know, what you don't know, and what you don't know that you don't know. Well, you begin to realize there are lots of things you need to research to truly get your arms around the elephant that is the future. Future wheels, helps you narrow to probable futures, and to some extent helps you also narrow it to potential futures, preferable futures, I should say. Uh, it's about design thinking. It's about systems thinking, and you can read about those in the book more carefully. And it's a great complement. It is the requisite complement to the second strategy I'm going to show you in another video, which would be cross impact matrices. This is what one looks like. Forgive the graphic, it's not great. There should be arrows coming from the center out to the interior circles, and then from the interior circles to the outer circles. And conceivably, you could have a page filled with circles adding to circles adding to circles. We're trying to keep this more or less simple, but you can basically see what you're going to do is you're going to put a future into your center. So if you were to say, I want to be a futures-based leader. Let's make it personal for a moment. That's your future. That's the future you intend. That's your preferable future, for that matter. Well, what are the effects of that? Well, is they going to affect? How will it affect your family? How will it affect your present job? How will it affect your educational needs? How will it affect your finances? How will your finances affect this? How will your finances affect that? And that's really how it works. I mean, being simplistic, I know, but that's what it is. Now, here's what it's not. Here's what it's not. It is not a brainstorm. And for those of you familiar with brainstorm expectations or creative thinking, where anything goes, you can say, oh, the Martians will land tomorrow. Well, that's just fine. Then maybe the Martians are landing tomorrow. They probably turn around and go back if they land it tomorrow. But the short story is, that's not what this is. This is not a brainstorm. This is if-then thinking. It's got to have some measure of logic. And so if you're doing this for yourself, if you're doing this with other folks, which you should be doing, and you could be doing rather quickly, then what you need to do is to require that they substantiate their point. And if you're not satisfied with how they substantiate it, and again, this should be based on the information gathering strategy that you've already garnered. If you're not satisfied, or the other group isn't satisfied with it, then you don't put it in the little circles, because then you're wasting your time. And so you can see here's another example of this. If children have difficulties with problem-solving activities, that's going to lead to teachers seeking new training, and it's going to need the resources being shifted, and so forth as you go around. This is just a template that I think I've given you with minus the points. So you can use the template that I gave you. I couldn't figure out how to get the blue out, so you may want to try to do that on your own, but that's really what your assignment's going to consist of. And basically what you do is you put a potential future in the center, and then you begin to project probable. That word's wrong. That word is incorrect. I'm going to change it as we speak. Begin to project probable futures out into the connected circles. Then you project outcomes of outcomes of outcomes of outcomes. In the end, what you're going to do, and you're going to do this in the assignment that I gave you for the second week, you're going to identify the most probable based on what you think you know from your information gathering, or what you suspect that you know, given the brevity of the course. We'll have to give you some allowances on that. And then what you're going to do is also choose the preferables, insofar as you know that. And so if you decide, well, I want to be a leader, well, your preference in the end is I want to be a leader, which means I want to be educated properly. I don't want it to disturb my family's needs so much, and so forth. So you're going to begin to identify what the preferable, excuse me, futures are that are within the numbers of probables that you have. So you can do it on a personal level. You can also do it certainly on an organizational level. I would try that if I were you before you send something to me. I don't care whether you pick probable or or rather personal or professional or global or national. That's fine with me as well. The example I've been beginning to use pretty regularly in these videos is the aging of Long Island population as not only as a probable future, if it hasn't already happened. That trend continues to happen. And again, understanding that the word trend can change radically with some changes very quickly. If we were what's that science fiction movie where you can only live up to age X and then they make a cookie out of you? That would take care of the aging population. That's a probable future, the possible future. I don't know if it's a probable one. I'm pretty sure it's not a preferable one, but that would change that trend pretty quickly, wouldn't it? And that's really it. It's as simple as that. Yeah, but you need to be careful. Don't take it lightly. Take it pretty seriously, and that will begin with the future that you think you see happening uh, tomorrow, figuratively speaking, that you want to project out, and then draw some conclusions about, again, based on how you look at information, on what you think that you know, uh, what the probable futures are that this futures will suggest, and then if you can, identify what you would want to see happen, and that sooner or later will lead us over to phase three. But before we get to phase three, I just want to point out one more slide. We've got to do a cross impact matrix, and that is the subject for the next video.